What's going on, guys? So today I want to talk about the differences between some Amazon business models. Okay, so wholesale, retail, arbitrage, private label. Which one is best? Which one is best for you? Which one is best to start and make the most money with in 2022, going into 2023? Breaking these all down, I've done them all. So the last 5 years selling on Amazon, I've tried them all. I've hustled and grinded for all these Amazon business models, trying to figure out which one is best, which one's going to make the most money, everything like that. So I'm going to walk through all the pros and cons of these business models so you can decide which one's best for you. And then obviously I'll share my opinion here of what I think is best, where I've made the most money, what's difficult, what's easiest, everything like that. So if you guys don't know who I am, just a real quick introduction before we hop into my screen. My name is Cameron James. I've been selling on Amazon for, like I said, 5 years now. I've had over 50 plus products on Amazon and had multiple accounts go to 6 and 7 figures. With that being said, let's hop into my screen and let's get to it. All right, guys. So again, talking about Amazon wholesale, retail arbitrage, private label, which one is best up top here. We're going to start with Amazon wholesale to begin this, and then we're going to do pros, and then we're going to do cons down here. And so just beginning here, let's talk about the pros of Amazon wholesale. So what is Amazon wholesale? Let's talk about that first. So this is just you hopping onto Amazon, selling other people's brands. So think Nike here, think Adidas, and you're getting permission from those people, from Nike, to sell their products on Amazon. So, you know, the latest Nike shoes, the latest Nike socks, shorts, t-shirts, everything like that. Obviously, you can't just go sell that without their permission because that would be illegal because they have trademarks, they own that brand. But we can get permission from them to grab those t-shirts, sell them on Amazon, be the middleman. So we buy it from them at wholesale price, and then we sell it for retail price, and we pocket that little difference in between. So that's what wholesale is. Okay, you can do this for, think all brands. You know, I'm looking at my Canon camera here. I got this microphone here. I can go to any brand I want and ask to be a retailer of this. Just think of Walmart, think of JCPenney's, things like that. Just when you see all these other brands in there, that's exactly what they're doing. But when we do the wholesale model on Amazon, we're doing that online. So hopefully you understand what's going on there. But let's talk about the pros and cons of doing wholesale and everything like that. So first, you don't have to start your own brand to get to sell someone else's. Okay, just like exactly what I just said there. You can just sell someone else's brand. You don't have to do that creative work up front, everything like that. Just like I said, less creativity and mental work at the beginning. So it does take a little bit of thinking, of working out, like what kind of product should I sell, what brand should I put here, and everything like that. You don't have to do this in the beginning here. You can just sell someone else's brand. They've already done that work for you. Next, if you have an in with a company here, okay, you can take advantage of that. So say you know someone of a brand, or you have a cousin or an aunt that works at Nike or a smaller brand, and you're like, hey, like this brand would be perfect to sell on Amazon. Can I be the only distributor on Amazon for that? So if you have an in to sell that product or that brand on Amazon, that is a huge benefit. Okay, you can take advantage of that. Okay, next, if you have a physical store with permission to sell these products already, then it is an easy transition. So say you have a camera store already, say you have a clothing store already. So obviously you have permissions to sell these brands, so you can easily just plop them on Amazon and expand your sales channels essentially, right? You can hop them onto Amazon, you can sell them in stores, you can easily ship them out to Amazon, and you already have that connection, and you can just easily transition into that. Okay, so again, wholesale is us selling other people's brands on Amazon and taking essentially the middle part of that cash there and everything like that. Let's talk about cons though. Okay, so what's bad? Let's go back to the purple here. So low margins. So this is a huge cons. So essentially you could be working with like 10% margins here. Just think about this. This makes actually a lot of sense, right? So if Nike's selling them to you and then you're selling them, like Nike wants to make their money, so they take half the profits, and then you're going to take the other half of the profits. So you're essentially splitting profits with someone else. So you're going to have really low margins to do this. And Nike, knowing how big they are, they're most likely just going to be like, well, like, we're doing you a favor here. You're selling our product. We've done all the branding. We've done all the hard work. Okay, take your 10% or leave it. We don't care, and everything like that. So when you do this, like, you're going to put up like 100K to get 10K back. So this is, you have to put up a lot of money to get a little money back, which is just more risk, right? So that is a con for wholesaling, is low margins. Next, you have to compete on the same listing as other sellers, which is fighting for the buy box here. So what that means is, say, Charmin toilet paper, right? That's a brand. You see it at Target, you see it at Walmart. When you go on Amazon to buy this, you can actually see like 50 other sellers on this listing. Okay, so you're fighting for the buy box. So it rotates in and out of Jim's store will sell the toilet paper for 3 hours. Then Andy's store will sell the toilet paper for another 3 hours, and it'll just keep rotating back. The more people on this buy box, the less time you get. And guess what? If you don't have competitive pricing, if you're not an FBA, if you don't have a good seller ratings, everything like that, you'll get even less time because that's how the buy box works. It rotates based on pricing, reputation, essentially. So your seller feedback, and if you're an FBA or FBM. So there is a little algorithm to it. And if you don't have that competitive advantage, you could be in trouble there. So that's a huge con right there. Next, no flexibility in the product you sell, right? So if you're selling Charmin toilet paper, you're selling Charmin toilet paper. Okay, let me zoom in here a little bit so you can see a little better. Make sure we can see this okay. Next, you can't build your own brand. Same thing as like flexibility in your product. Same thing in your brand. Like you're selling someone else's brand. You're helping someone else out. You're putting a lot of money in someone else's pocket, put a little bit of money in yours. So that's kind of a disadvantage right there. Next con is you need permission to sell most brand products on Amazon. So meaning that you need to go talk to these brands, you need to get permission, you need to get a written letter, essentially turn that into Amazon and say, okay, now you can go sell this product. So you can't just go buy discounted Nike shoes, throw them on Amazon. Amazon's gonna say, no, Nike said we can't do this. You need permission first. You're gonna have to provide documentation to actually do that, which is a headache and a half. If you ever dealt with Amazon with anything quite like this, whether it's, your products getting taken down or your registration, identity verification, all this good stuff, it's not a frictionless experience. It kind of sucks. So this adds more friction in the process, and you have to go talk to that brand to actually get written permission for most, not every brand, but most, especially as Amazon grows and there's a lot more brand presence. The ones you want to sell, essentially, you need permission for. Next, hard to contact, hard to get permission and buy products from those brands. So think about how many people are doing Amazon, right? So think of how many letters Nike gets or emails they get, or all the bigger brands, how many emails they get. It's like, hey, can we sell your product on Amazon? It's a crap ton, right? So I'm sure they ignore a ton. I'm sure they just want to deal with the bigger sellers. So this puts you at a disadvantage, and it's hard to get in contact with those people. Okay. So next, most want massive orders to become a retailer for them. Okay. Just like I talked about, if it's Nike, they don't want to deal with the small fish. They'll just deal with the bigger fish that make them more money. So it's really hard to get the ones you want, right? Next, as brands understand how much money is on Amazon, they are kicking people off and starting to sell themselves. Okay. So meaning there's 50 people selling Charmin toilet paper. What if Charmin toilet paper comes in and be like, well, we can just get an extra 10 to 20% if we just sell this on Amazon ourselves. So they kick everybody off and they sell themselves. So this can happen, especially some upcoming brands that you're like, hey, I found these and they're kind of hidden gem. Then you kind of have just the permission to sell it yourself, just you. And they're like, well, you're making a lot of money here. Why don't we just do this ourselves? And you kind of get boned right there. So those are the pros and cons of wholesale there. Some good things, some bad things, but let's move on to retail arbitrage. So ultimately you can kind of figure out what you want to do when it comes to selling on Amazon. Okay. So next we got retail arbitrage here. We got pros. And so the first one is small investment to get started. So first I should explain what retail arbitrage is. So essentially what you're doing is you're going to Walmart, you're going to Target, you're going to discount stores, and you're essentially getting things for markdown prices. So think of the clearance rack at Walmart. And then you're essentially scanning on your phone or looking on your app for your Amazon and saying like, okay, this product is half off at Walmart, but they're selling it for full price on Amazon. So if I buy this for 15, I can go sell it for 30 on Amazon. After their fees, I make like $3 or $4. Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, so this is what retail arbitrage is. So it's a small investment to get started, right? So if you're just buying a $15 product, like that's awesome, right? So it's like, $15 to get started, and that's it. You don't have to go buy 500 units. You don't have to go buy $100,000 in wholesale just to make 10,000. You can just go, make your quick, $30 here in revenue, and then pocket the plus $3 here. So that's kind of how that works to make sure you fully kind of understand what's going on there. So you essentially, again, a middleman, but you're just at a lower level. You're essentially wholesaling at a lower level, getting products for a discount and getting them on Amazon. And if you do this right, you can make some good money here. So it's a small investment to get started, which is fantastic, right? If you don't want to spend thousands of dollars right off the bat. Next, it's a lower risk since no MOQs. You can buy one product. You don't have to buy 500 units. You don't have to buy 1,000 units, right? So if you go talk to Nike, I'm sure they're like, okay, you buy 1,000 of these products or you don't buy any. That's the minimum order quantity we mess with there. Okay. So next, it's easy to get momentum and actually start selling products on Amazon. So what I mean by this, wholesale, if you're sitting there talking to people, talking to manufacturers, you're sending email after email after email, looking at products on Amazon. Should we talk to them? Should we talk to them? Should we try to sell this? And that could take months. So it takes a lot of action to kind of figure out what's going on and get your first product on Amazon in that regard. Whereas retail arbitrage, you can actually just go to Walmart, set up your account, sell that thing the next day. Okay, so you can easily, with less friction, get started faster. So that's kind of that's a huge pro to me, right? So the faster we get started, the better. Okay, so next, it's a great way to get Seller Central experience. So understanding how Amazon works, how do you do a shipping plan? How do you list a product? Well, you get to do this very, very quickly and at low risk, because you're just buying one product. You don't have to buy 500, and you can kind of work Amazon's system, their Seller Central, get really familiar with that with, essentially $15 here, right? So next, guys, let's talk about cons here. So going back to my beautiful little purple here. So we have low margins again, right? So 5% to 20% maybe. Again, say we're doing $30 product right here. Okay, well, it's the $3 thing. So that's, what is that, 10%? So you're looking at, if I could write here, it's 10% margin. Okay, so we have really low margin, but that's what to be expected essentially when it comes to retail arbitrage, because you're getting it for clearance. Walmart has to make their money back, and then you have to sell it on Amazon, which they have their own fees, and you're just kind of making a little bit of extra right there. Okay, next, it's competitive, right? So how many Walmart discount shelves are there? How many people are doing Amazon? Okay, so we don't have a lot of room to work with here. Also, these listings, the products that are actually making money, they're probably pretty competitive, right? Because there's probably a trend here of like, okay, I can go with this product here, go with this product here, sell at a discount, and everybody's on that page on Amazon. Okay, so you got multiple people on that buy box, essentially is what I'm trying to say there, just like wholesale. Next, you have to share your listing and buy box with others, just like I talked about. Okay, so this is annoying. If you have 10 products to sell and it takes you, you only get an hour per day on that buy box and you sell one per day, well, what if you had it for all 24 hours? You could probably sell all 10 right there in that day. Well, you're sharing the buy box, so that puts you at a disadvantage, okay? So next, only so many clearance stores exist, just like I talked about. So when you're walking around, going around, like how many clearance stores, these places you can get discounts, how many of these things actually exist? How many of these stores actually exist? Okay, so also, what if you don't live in a big city? Okay, so obviously a big city helps with this because they have more stores, more outlets, everything like that. Well, if you're in a small city, you're kind of screwed because you have Walmart and that's it. Maybe you just have one Walmart, maybe one Target, that's it. What if you don't have any? You're kind of at a disadvantage there. Next, you can't build your own brand, obviously doing retail arbitrage. You're selling someone else's brand there. Lots of man hours, okay? So you have to travel store to store. You have to, you're driving. It could be 45 minutes away. It could be 30 minutes away. Again, if it's big city, you're dealing with traffic. If it's a small city, maybe you drive an hour to get to the next big city. So there's a lot of gas being spent, a lot of hours trying to like scrounge up all these products off the shelves, everything like that. So for hunting down products store to store, packaging and sending to Amazon, also that's a big thing right there. So, when you get these products off the shelves here, you got to package them yourself, get the barcode, what Amazon wants you to put on their product, and before you send that into FBA, or if you're doing FBM, so fulfilled by you, and you're sending that out, well, then you have to go get the packaging, you have to wrap it up yourself, you have to send that to the customer, and that's a lot of labor too, especially as you start to grow, right? If you want to make more money, you have to grow. Well, that's just more hours, more labor for sending products in, sending out if you're doing FBM, and finding products yourself. Okay, so going down here. So next, it's very hard to scale, kind of what I was talking about right there, to scale this, because one, if you want a ton of products for retail arbitrage, obviously you can only do so much yourself. So you need a connection for some discount stores, essentially. Like maybe you're buying discounted cargo containers, right? That people abandoned, or you're buying it from Amazon, all the refunded products, all the return products that they just sell to you. Maybe there's another source, some liquidators, some warehouses that you can get a lot of product from and go through that. Well, once you get those discounted products, you've got a lot of them, you got to sort them, you have to go through them, you have to package them, everything like that. So you need a warehouse, you need employees to take the next level in this type of business model, which again, wholesale, again, I'm just trying to give you the facts here, wholesale and retail arbitrage. I know people who are making millions doing both. Okay, that's just the beauty of it. But again, just going through pros and cons here, what's best. And then obviously I'll share my opinion here at the end of what I think is best in my personal experience doing all of these. Okay, so I'm not saying any of these can't work, but there's pros and cons, okay? Next, Amazon does not like this business model, okay? Making it more difficult by the day, requiring receipts, brand permission, and brand gating, okay? So it's, if they don't like your product you're selling, they're going to require invoices, receipts, Well, these are really hard to do. They don't really like Walmart receipts being sent into them. It's like, okay, this doesn't mean you have permission to sell this product. So it gets harder and harder to sell these products every single day. So that's retail arbitrage, guys. Moving on to private label here. So this is, if I explain this business model here, essentially we're branding our own products. So we're taking, think of a spatula, right? So we go to a store, kitchen, home and goods store, whatever it may be. Well, there's probably like 4 different brands of spatulas there, but they're all selling like they're all spatulas. So essentially what they're doing, they're all private labeling a spatula. So essentially what we would do is go to a manufacturer who does this, white labels or private labels, and say, hey, we want Ted's spatulas. So we take the same spatula that they're already selling and we put our brand name on it. Now we're selling it ourselves. So this is a good way to brand. This is a good way to essentially be different. Everything, again, things I'm going to talk about here in the pros and cons list. That's probably the best way to do it. Essentially what you're doing, think of the Great Value brand at Walmart. Okay. I think it's Good and Gather at Target, which they all have their different ones, but essentially what they're doing is they're private labeling their own products so they can sell it for cheaper, sell their own brand, make more money, everything like that. So essentially that's all we're doing is taking existing products, putting our name on it, and then putting that on Amazon, which obviously has its pros and cons here. So next we got pros. So we get to build our own brand, right? That's kind of a big one just from the fact of we didn't have that flexibility with retail arbitrage or wholesale. Better margins. Okay. So this is a big one for me, is like, I want to make more money. So better margins is great. I don't want to work to get 5% or 10% or put in $100,000 and only get 10,000 back. I want to make money quicker. I want to have a healthier margin so I don't have to stress about that kind of stuff. Okay. Next, lower startup costs versus wholesale, which this one is arguable. But you know, again, I'm going to put up $100,000 to make 10,000 because I don't want to make anything less than that. Whereas in private label, I can put up less product because I'm making 30 to 40% margins versus only 10%. So to me, it's a lower startup cost versus wholesale. But again, someone in wholesale would be like, well, you can start with 100 products in wholesale. Again, you can argue that all day there of, you know, MOQs versus wholesale MOQs, things like that. Next, getting the listing all to yourself. Okay. So I got my eraser that I'm not sure what I'm doing there, but getting your listing all to yourself and don't have to share the buy box. And so instead of 50 people rotating for the same product to sell, we're getting our own listing essentially. So we can sell all day, 24 hours. We're the only one on that listing on Amazon, which is great. You don't have to worry about the buy box rotating, all that stress that comes with that, everything like that. You can make more sales. You can, you know, sell out a lot quicker, everything like that. So next, have flexibility in the niches you enter, right? So if you're doing wholesale, retail, arbitrage, wholesale, you're kind of limited by the products that already exist and that are good opportunities on Amazon to sell, plus the ones that get back to you, right? Because you're limited by that as well. Retail arbitrage, you're limited by the products that are on the shelves that are at discounted prices. And then with private label, you're not limited by that because you can go into any niche you want essentially, because you can go to any existing product out there, or you can even create your own and go up there and sell that product. So you're not limited by the niches you can enter when it comes to private label. Next, you can make improvements, add value, bundled to existing products to separate yourself from others. Okay. So what I mean by this, instead of just selling a spatula, you sell a kit of 13 spatulas, different colors, different designs. Maybe you add in wooden spoons to it. Maybe you add a whole kit. Maybe there's a knife set with it. Maybe there's a metal spatula in there and it's a whole grill set, right? So you have unlimited ways you can improve, add value, and bundle products to separate yourself from others. Where if you're selling toilet paper for Charmin, you're just selling that toilet paper. You can't really do anything with it because you can't really mess with their brand. You can't mess with their product, everything like that. Okay, so we have some flexibility there. Next, you can scale this business from your laptop with no physical labor, employees, or warehouse required. The work between selling 50 units versus 5,000 units is the same since Amazon's warehouses are doing all the work and you can ship right to the warehouse without touching it. Okay, so this to me is maybe one of the bigger pros of private label is you can scale without adding more labor hours. So you selling 50 products on Amazon with private label in their warehouses, right? So their FBA model fulfilled by Amazon. You send those products into Amazon's warehouse. When a customer buys, they get 2 days shipping. Amazon ships that out themselves and you don't have to lift a finger. So 50 units with not lifting a finger looks exactly the same when you sell 5,000 units without lifting a finger. So this is how you scale a lot quicker. This is how you essentially leverage being able to get to bigger amounts. If you're fixed to 12 hours a day working, you can only do so much retail arbitrage and everything like that. Where this, you can take it 5,000 products looks the same as 50,000 products, 100,000 products, everything like that. And you can do it from your laptop. You can ship it right to the warehouse without touching it. And there's different strategies how to do that as well. But essentially, you can scale without that physical labor. Retail arbitrage, wholesale, you might need employees and you might need warehouses. You don't need this. Amazon's got the warehouse. You ship it in. Everything gets taken care of itself there. Next, easier to get to 7 and 6 figures this way. Again, this is kind of opinionated, but just for the reasons I just said up above, is that, it's no physical labor, no employees, no warehouses, and Amazon's warehouses are doing all the work, and you can ship right to the warehouses and everything like that. So to me, that makes it a lot easier to scale, right? Next, higher profit margins allow you to pay yourself quicker and reinvest in the business. Okay, so essentially, when you have 30 to 40% margins, you can pay yourself out a lot quicker, actually make a salary, and you can use that profit also to reinvest in the business. Whereas wholesale or retail arbitrage, it's a lot harder, take that $3 or take that 10% and reinvest in the business or pay yourself just because there's less to go around. Next, with a private label, you can get brand registered for A+ content, branded Amazon storefront, video ads, and branded ads, et cetera, et cetera. There's a few other things too, which allows you to market easier. So you have more marketing ability on Amazon's platform when you have your own brand, because you just get a little trademark, which is you essentially get a trademark now for $300, $600, some of that range. I know it's an added expense, but you do have the opportunity where in wholesale, retail arbitrage, since you don't own the brands, you don't get that opportunity. So with this trademark, with you getting brand registered, you can have essentially a website on Amazon. You can have better things to convert better and to get more traffic, which is always a huge advantage. Next, you can start to build a customer list and get repeat customers. So when you have a brand and people like your brand, they're more likely to come back and purchase again, right? Same thing if we get off Amazon, which I'm gonna talk about here in a second too. We can get emails, we can get social media platforms, things like that to get customers we can talk to, we can advertise to, we can tell them, hey, we just started product number 2, product number 3 in this brand. If you liked our first one, you're gonna love our second, third one, and we get repeat customers, which is huge, okay? So next, it's easier to build a website around your brand and diversify your sales channels, right? So if you have a brand, you have a line of 3, 4 products, it's a lot easier to make a Shopify store with this brand around it, actually get customers there who are buying things, trust the site, and everything like that. So this is really nice, especially when we get bigger. To diversify sales channels here is huge, from the fact of, what if Amazon takes down our wholesale business or our RA business or our private label business? Well, you don't really have an opportunity to sell elsewhere with wholesale or retail arbitrage unless you have a storefront. Whereas with private label, you can easily get a Shopify store or another website and sell on there. Okay. Next, if you brand, you have better long-term protection from copycatters. So what I mean by that is, if we put a brand on something and people like our brand and someone else starts selling the same product after we added value to it, kind of got creative, everything like that, then it doesn't really matter, because those people like our brand, they trust our brand, they're willing to pay a little bit extra. So that helps us protect our profit margins, helps protect us from price wars, all that good stuff of people just lowering price, lowering price, lowering price. So if we take the time, be creative, build a good product, add value to it, maybe bundle, whatever it may be, just find a good angle into the market, we can protect ourselves there because people love our brand, and have customers pick ours over other people, right? Just like Nike or Under Armour or Apple, right? People pay a premium for those things because they love the brand. I'm not saying we're going to get to that level, but eventually we're going to build a small kind of network effect when it comes to that. Okay, so moving on to cons. All right, so what do we got here? So cons for private label. Okay, so most existing products are competitive, so you have to get creative. So there's a little bit more mental work when it comes to this. Okay, so yes, there's a lot of spatulas out there. There's a lot of just normal day products out there that already exist, and they're pretty saturated on Amazon. So we have to be creative. We have to find different angles into the market. We have to niche down, go into sub niches we never even heard about, right? Whether that's battery repair kits, or, do you know anybody who repairs batteries? No. So like going down to these weird niches we never heard of, we can kind of find our own little markets. Or if we go into existing markets that are pretty saturated, we have to get creative. So how do we bring a new angle into this market? How do we add more value? How do we stand out versus other competitors? Which again takes a strategic plan, a proven plan to do this, but it is a little bit more work up front. Next, building a brand, or at least setting yourself up to brand later, is a little extra work up front. Just pretty much what I said right there, right? So building a brand, figuring out what your brand name will be, what your niche wants to be, I wouldn't worry about that too much, but it is a little extra work just to make sure that, like, if you do want to build a brand around a product you're selling on Amazon later, you have to make sure you pick a decent brand name. You set yourself up. You can make sure your Amazon listings under that brand name, everything like that. So it means getting brand approved, which is a whole other thing, which isn't too bad again, but you just need to know what you're doing there. Next, working with suppliers in China or other countries has a good amount of friction when first learning. Okay, so dealing with Chinese suppliers, talking to them, the language barrier obviously has its difficulties. There's, a good amount of manufacturing going on in Vietnam, Pakistan, India, South America, Mexico, things like that. So obviously language barriers there, and kind of figuring out how to talk to these manufacturers, how to negotiate, how to get the best pricing, how to find the best quality, how to get samples. This is a little bit of upfront learning. It's essentially learning a whole new kind of field, versus product research to suppliers. So it does take a little bit to kind of figure out things there. Next, higher startup costs versus retail arbitrage. So arbitrage, you can start for $15. There's going to be an MOQ for your private label product. So maybe it could be, let's see here, if I go down here, it could be 100 units. It could be 500 units. It could be 1,000 units. Okay. Somewhere in that range. So this is all tough because this is all negotiable too. But with 500 units, say at $2 a pop, that's $1,000. Say they're $5 products, that could be $2,500. So it's something to think about too. I wish my handwriting was better, but moving on here, guys. So next, takes a little longer to get your first sales and get started. So you have to go through the product research phase. You have to find the suppliers, get samples. Then we have to ship internationally. Okay, so it takes a little bit to get your first product up on Amazon. It could take 2 to 3 months if we do it correctly. But that's just, retail arbitrage, going back to that, you can get a product up there and within a day or two. So it takes a little bit longer. It's pretty much like wholesale, a little bit, maybe a little longer than wholesale when it comes to that. Next, options are limitless for product research, so can be overwhelming. Okay, so with that being said, when you can do any product you want and you can do any brand you want, the options are limitless. Sometimes it's really hard to get going because we're thinking like, what do we do here? Like, what's the best niche? What's the best avenue? And we can get hung up and get overwhelmed of like, where do we go? What do we pick? Everything like that. So those are the pros and cons between retail arbitrage, wholesale, private label, everything like that. Let me tell you a little bit about my experience now. So over the last 5 years, again, I've tried some wholesale. We've gone to trade shows. We talked to manufacturers. I've done some retail arbitrage. I've sold used textbooks. I've done it all, right? Over the last 5 years, where the main bulk of my success has come from, about 99.99%, has been private label, because you can sell products, you can scale faster, you can have higher margins, you can build a brand around these things, and you kind of have limitless options where, again, it really comes down to being able to scale hands off, because I don't want to go and hunt down products at the store. I want to get a business that's going to generate me, $10,000 to $30,000 a month. And I want to be hands off so I can work on the things that matter, or, not just have another freaking 9-to-5 job, right? So you quit your 9-to-5 job to essentially create a new 9-to-5 job in the retail arbitrage game or the wholesale game, whether that's just lower margins, so you have to work harder and everything like that. I'd rather build a business upfront. It maybe takes a little bit more work upfront, but in the 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, you really reap those benefits and become a big company, right? Become a big brand, become a large Amazon store, get to 6 and 7 figures, whatever it may be, whatever your goal is. Maybe you just want to automate the business and lay on the beach, which you can do with private label, not so much with some of the other business models. So that is my opinion. I love private label. Again, 50 plus private label products I personally started, so I'm familiar with this process. So I'm probably a little bit biased by now. I know there's people making money doing wholesale. I know there's people making money doing retail arbitrage. But at the end of the day, I'd say the most opportunities in private label, because limitless options, right? There's always new niches being invented. There's always new value you can add to the market and everything like that. Whereas wholesale, retail arbitrage, there's just more competition, and there's a finite amount of these brands you can even sell, right? There's a finite amount of these stores you can go to for the clearance racks. Where private label, it's limitless. There's a million different brands you could start, a million different products you can go to. So the opportunity is always going to be there. And plus the scaling ability is huge as well. So that's my opinion, guys. I like private label over these other business models, but doesn't mean these can't work. Obviously, there's pros and cons to all of them, right? So do what's best for you. Maybe you start with RA first, so retail arbitrage. Just get your hands wet, get them a little dirty, get on Seller Central, sell a few products like, oh, this is kind of cool. I like this. And then if you're like, okay, I can see where Cameron's talking about. This is a lot of labor. This is a lot of work. Okay, let's go find a private label product so I can get 100 units, 200 units, 500 units and sell those without touching them, sit at my laptop, work on my marketing campaigns that way and push that product that way. Wholesale, if you got connections, this could really work. It could really do well. But if you don't, it seems too competitive for me. I've met a lot of people lately who are switching to private label from wholesale just because it's getting too competitive. Again, I know there's people out there probably screaming at me right now, like, Cameron, I make millions doing wholesale. I'm sure there's plenty of opportunity there. But just overall, if you're just beginning, I think the grander opportunity is private label, especially for the long run. If you want to do this for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years down the road and make some real money with some real good margins and have the opportunity to build a brand if that's something you want to do or are interested in. But that's it, guys. I hope this was helpful. Give me a like, subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below too. If you do all those 3 things right there, it really helps get this out to more people, which there's so many people asking, which business model should I do? Hopefully it helps them make that decision, helps you make the decision of what's best for you moving forward for your business. But otherwise, guys, I hope you liked it, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.